All right, hey, it's Rob again, and I'm going to talk about the song that made Michael Jackson cry. That is Keep the Faith off the Dangerous LP. This is the 33rd anniversary of Dangerous. And if you're new to my channel, I worked at the studio where Michael recorded Dangerous. I didn't work for Michael. I didn't do anything important on the record. I was the guy that got lunch. I was the guy that answered phones. But I was there for 2 years between 1990 and 1992 when the Dangerous sessions were happening. And there was a particular song that made Michael Jackson cry, and let me tell you why. So, Keep the Faith was a song that Saida Garrett brought in. She wrote it with Glenn Ballard. They both wrote, of course, Man in the Mirror. Glenn Ballard got famous because he worked with and kind of discovered Alanis Morissette. Another person that worked on it, his name was Rhett Lawrence. Rhett kind of did a lot of work with Mariah Carey in the early days. So these are really established people in the music business who went on to have great success. But anyway, they brought in a song, and Glenn Ballard, Saida Garrett, Rhett Lawrence, and another guy I think has co-writing credit on it, Jerry Hay, who is like a horn player, I think. Anyway, so they brought this song in. They brought a demo in. Saida Garrett was singing the demo of the song called Keep the Faith. It happened to be one of the times when I was in the studio, and they were excited about this new song they wanted to listen to, and they played it. And I got to tell you, I wish I could just hear that version again, because it was an entire demo with Saida Garrett singing on it, and she did such a beautiful vocal. And it was a really just, I thought they could just release it the way it was. But anyway, it's even possible that I heard Saida Garrett singing on the version that we did in the studio there. I can't recall. It was so many years ago. Anyway, what I heard was amazing. And so, of course, this was brought in for Michael to sing. So they worked on that for a long time, building up the tracks as they do from the drums and the bass and the keyboards. And they had just, massive keyboard rigs that would fill up the whole studio and surround the player. Rhett Lawrence was a keyboard player, a synthesizer player who I'm sure played on it. Michael Boddicker was the name of another person who may have worked on it. It's hard to remember who did what. Brad Buxer, they were all around, and they were all people who did a lot of work with, drum machine programming and synthesizers and that kind of stuff. Anyway, so the musicians worked on it, and they got this version that was finally ready for Michael to sing. It was kind of for whatever reason, a big deal. Like this, they thought was really going to be like a breakout track from the record. And Keep the Faith is a great track, by the way. Anyway, so it got time for Michael to sing, and he went in to start working on his vocal. And like I said, I was not in the studio every minute or whatever, but the next thing I remember seeing is Michael crying and walking around the studio weeping and crying, and they were trying to, console him. The engineer, Bruce Swedeen, was saying, it's okay, we can fix it, we can do something. And so as it turns out, Keep the Faith was recorded in a key that Michael Jackson could no longer sing in, and that's what made Michael cry. It was done in a key that he probably could have sung in pretty well in years past, maybe on Bad or Thriller or whatever. But by this point, Michael's voice had changed. He was around 35 when I worked with him. Matter of fact, we had his 35th birthday in the studio, I remember. So, and at this point, for whatever reason, his voice just was not able to deliver the goods in whatever key the song had been recorded in. I guess they just assumed, or, maybe they had done some demos or whatever, and Michael did okay with it. But when it came down, to the time when he really wanted to record the final vocals for this song, he just couldn't do it. His voice was cracking in different places. It just didn't sound good. So Michael was very upset by this, very upset because, well, two reasons. One, was embarrassed. He was really, serious about his singing, and he was very protective of it. And whenever he sung, it was in secret, and they would turn the lights off, and they would do all these different things to make him feel comfortable and make him feel like he wasn't being watched, so he could give his best performance and not be self-conscious. So he was upset about that. And then also, of course, he was upset because we had worked for days and days and days recording this track, and it was mostly going to have to be scrapped. So when you do a drum track, of course, drums are not really in any particular tuning. So I'm sure the drums were able to be salvaged, but they probably had to go back from the drums and record everything again in a different key, the bass part and the synth parts and, guitar and horns and whatever else was on there. We had to go back and redo all that stuff so then Michael could sing the song in a different key, which he did, and it came out amazing, like I said. But if you heard that first version by Siedah Garrett, that was just fantastic. And just on its own, it could have been released, and I would love to hear that again. I've never heard that leaked out or whatever. There is a leak of like a work-in-progress version of Keep the Faith. I'm not sure if it's in the right key or the wrong key or whatever. I'd have to check between the originals. That'd be kind of interesting to see if there is any version of him singing in the other key that he was not successful in. But anyway, that's the story with Keep the Faith. Unfortunately, it really upset Michael at the time, but they worked through it. They re-recorded it, and it's on the record as it is today, and it still sounds great in any key. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.